is going to be a little bit of a gear shift because a couple of things. One is it's right about the middle of the month. It's the 14th, the Monday, if we're doing this day by day, and some of you are kind of tracking on a different thing, but still we're about halfway in. And this is the time whenever habits and resolutions that you've taken at the beginning of the year start to have a fade effect because life is kind of up and going again, and maybe you've already missed a couple things, and you're what you were enthusiastic about originally is losing its luster. This is the time, and we said this last time, that you always want to rediscover your why you did to begin with. And you have to step back a little bit. And again, this goes for any habit. This goes for if you want to exercise or change your diet or any of the habits that we take on. But when it comes to Bible engagement, you just want to remind yourself of your why. It doesn't matter what your emotions are like. Just say, okay, here's why I wanted to do this. That's why it's always good to write it down in the beginning. If you didn't write it down in the beginning, well, write it down now, or make a voice memo to yourself on the phone. Hey, you, talking to yourself, like, the reason you wanted to do this was, and then list it off. I wanted to get closer to Jesus. I've heard, and research has shown, that Bible engagement is the number one way to grow in my relationship with Jesus and to grow spiritually. So that's why I got into this. Just stay with it. Just get into it. Also remember, and I've heard this as a basic principle that everybody ought to know, is that emotion follows action. Emotion follows action. Don't wait for something to feel good before you do it, because it won't. Just do the action. If you know the action is good, the way our minds are designed, the way our wiring is designed by God, is if we'll act first, the emotion will almost typically, or the feelings typically follow it. So you go ahead and you engage in the Bible, even though you don't feel like it, even when you're kind of tired of it, or your mind's wandering or whatever, the emotion of having done it will follow it. Like you'll walk away and go, I'm glad I did that. But that's kind of how we have to coach ourselves, especially early on in the process and at that halfway point, because inevitably things are going to dip down. Here's the other thing that happens to you. We often get taken off of our goals because we just come up with different goals. Now, I've been going kind of slow, and it's been in 2 John, this real short book, and it seems too simple and it seems too slow. We're going to go on to 3 John, and maybe you just kind of want to jump over and I want to do the book of Isaiah, or I want to do something heavier or bigger, which, okay, if you can, but be cautious of things like that, because usually what takes us off good ideas are ideas that we perceive to be better ideas. And complete the good idea you had first, and then you can go on. Because my goal is we're going to start with very short books and equip you, therefore, and I'm going to give you a list at the end of just keep getting a little bigger all the time. Because start small and go for daily. Start small and go for daily. So with that in mind, we are going to go to 3 John today. 3 John, and 3 John is about the same length as 2 John. And again, that's the whole idea, is to start small. And I want to review some of the things that we said to do as we get into this book. And I'm practicing this myself. 3 John now is my devotional book that I'm just reading. And I said, first of all, know your style. Know who you are as far as all this. Know your learning style. I need to walk around. I need to read out loud. It helps me pay attention. And so that's what I've done with 3 John. Now, these books are short enough that it should be doable. Don't just read a few verses as you get into it. Listen to it. Remember, we said the number one law of Bible engagement is to listen. You go to the Bible not to first get something from it or try to grab something out of it. You go to listen to it. That's what you're doing. You're showing up, just listening to what's there. And you don't know what's there. That's the good thing. I think about this. What if you could have Jesus as a guest speaker at your church, which theoretically in spirit he should always be. But okay, say Jesus is live in concert and you can have him at your church. What would you do with him? Would you just invite him to say whatever he wants? Or would you invite him to kind of answer questions? Or give him a topic, hey, we've really been struggling with marriages in our church and we'd like you to address marriages. Or would you listen to just let him say what he had to say? Now, I don't think the other two are wrong necessarily, but good Bible study goes to the Bible kind of to say, Jesus, I want you to say whatever you want to say. I don't want you to say first what I think you ought to say or deal with the topic that I'm on. Not that it's wrong to do that. I would encourage you, if you're struggling in your marriage or whatever, go to what the Bible has to say about marriage. But too often, that's what we do. We're just going to pull something for ourselves. You go to 3 John, most of us have probably never read it. We don't know what it's going to say. But remember, we're standing on the foundation of it's God-breathed. God wanted the book there. God wanted these words there, and he put them there in this form. So I take that attitude and I go to listen. Now, we said part of listening was to find out the background a little bit. We want to find out who is writing, who's he writing to, what's the occasion of the writing, and you can go to blueletterbible.org under commentaries, and I read a few of those. David Guzik is usually my go-to. There's Matthew Henry. You can go and just read the introductions, and they'll give you a feel for this is what the letter was about, this is why it's reading. By reading the letter, you can kind of tell. It's not really hard to figure out. It was obviously, there's a church leader writing to another church leader named Gaius, and he writes him and says, hey, here's what's going on, and he tells him how much he loves him, and so that's the occasion. So your first goal is going to be just to say, okay, I'm going to let this letter speak for itself, and I'm going to read it through. And we said, listen, and listen to the flow of thought. This is a letter. That's the genre that it's in. It's a letter. It's not poetry like the Psalms or something. It's a letter somebody's writing. So read it like you would a letter. Just listen to it like you would a letter. Listen what he says to this guy. And listen to his flow of thought. Here's what he put in the letter. And just be a listener. And then pay attention. Kind of surface the ideas that catch you, and you'll see things. And I've already read it, but we'll talk about it tomorrow when we actually do read it. And read it a couple times, maybe out loud. Listen to it in your car on audio. Become an expert. It's another thing we said. Just focus in on this book. Now you know 2 John, and if you did what we said to do, you know it pretty good. You're like, hey, I'm familiar with the book of 2 John. Well, now you're going to be familiar with the book of 3 John. And that's going to create familiarity with the entire Bible if you'll be patient with the process. So just do that. Go and read 3 John. See what you think. Remember, finally, be honest. Lord, I have no idea why this is here. This seems like a strange statement. This is really interesting. Just interact with the Lord about what you're reading. You do all those things together, and then we're going to kind of process through the text of 3 John tomorrow.